The EATS lesson plan format is designed to set you and your students up for the greatest possible encounters with one another and with whatever topic that you want to be teaching on that given day. While it can be used and leveraged for full lessons, of course, which I do all the time, it is also something that we can use for a mini lesson such as you have within the 10-minute parameter of the mini lesson guidelines. So the EATS, essential question. This is so important to make sure that you start off on the right foot, that you are clear about the topic that you are asking about or that you want students to wonder about and learn about, and that this essential question is written in plain language and can be easily understood by anyone in the room without prior experience or prior schooling, really. So you want to avoid teacherese, as it were, and make sure that it's not too technical but very precise. Okay, the activating strategy, the A of EATS. The activating strategy with your mini lesson, I would suggest you keep the activating strategy around 1 minute, 2 minutes max, simply because, again, you only have 10 minutes max from start to finish. In any case, even on a fuller lesson, the activating strategy, I might say 5 minutes for a lesson max. It's simply a way to get others engaged in what you're trying to get them to be excited about and learn about. So this activating strategy, whichever one you choose, and there are a number that are posted on D2L, under the D2L resources, as well as you could Google this, right? You don't want to make this the assessment itself. So I would avoid trying to test on a certain knowledge set that you're counting on kids to have. Forget about that. You want kids to be excited and learners to be excited about the topic, and you can find pathways into that interest if you think broadly and widely about what other connections you can make and what other inroads can the kids make into the topic that you'll specifically teach today. The teaching strategy, this is so important that you make sure that you design the teaching strategy where, yes, of course, you might have explicit instruction for a time. Maybe a minute here, maybe a minute there in terms of our mini lesson, but do not stand up there for 6 minutes in front of any class in this 10-minute mini lesson and simply tell them what to do or tell them all about something. You know, there's so much said to be said for the guided discovery experiences, and the more you have students do, the more likely they will be to remember and also be able to retell what you wanted them to learn about that day, and to apply that skill in a later setting on a different day. Okay, so the teaching strategy, make sure that you create the opportunities and occasions for students to do and make and construct that knowledge and to apply those skills and to do it together and make it fun. Don't forget the fun factor. Just like what you saw with what I was trying to do with the SWET mini lesson on Start With Even Though for the thesis mini lesson that I shared with you before the break. And finally, the summarization strategy. This can be a challenge simply because it's so easy to overlook, but I would caution you from overlooking that. The summarization strategy allows everyone to come back together as a group of learners and to debrief what was the experience, what was most important from that particular mini lesson, the topic, and also to say out loud and to communicate from teacher and learner what was really taken away from that lesson. And that's also a valuable way for you to understand how many students and which students were able to effectively engage within the lesson, and then which ones you might want to go back and retool the lesson for perhaps the next day. So with that said, those are some tips for the EATS lesson plan format, and I would recommend, if you have more questions about it, talk to others, and also don't forget to just Google and do an online search for best practices mini lessons or EATS mini lesson, tips for summarization strategies, tips for teaching strategies, suggestions for, you can find all these sorts of things online, and you can start figuring out which ones make the most sense for you and your learners and your topic for the mini lesson.